Oh, hi, my name's Lisa, and I am a grateful member of Al-Anon. Got a waiver. I am really honored to be here, and I get a little choked up when I share, so it's all right. I've got helpers, too. There's a program for you. So, what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now. I like to kind of start about a little bit what it's like, because I can get so wrapped up in what it was like and what happened that I don't get to the good part, right? The part that's filled with hope and love and a really good life. This week, I'm really grateful for Alcoholics Anonymous. My husband of 36 years, celebrated 43 years sober. And it's always a good day when you can get up and sit on the couch. We read literature in the morning together. Usually we read, Al-Anon literature. We do our prayer and meditation. He makes my coffee every morning, and I swear without fail, unless for some strange reason I get up early, he has made my coffee every day. And he always jokes that he makes it like I like my men, short, not too hot. And that's the truth. He gets a little nervous when I share it too, because I have two husbands in my story. And he wants me to make sure that I clarify he's the second husband and not the first husband that got me here, right? There's the mean one, and then there's the good one. No, really, and I say, it's the husband that got me here and then the husband that keeps me here. So that's how we roll. Anyway, so what it was like, I just want to read a little bit this is from How Al-Anon Works, and it kind of describes what it was like. It says, we who have been affected by someone else's drinking find ourselves inexplicably haunted by insecurity, fear, guilt, obsession with others, an overwhelming need to control every person and situation we encounter. And although our loved ones appear to be the ones with the problems, we secretly blame ourselves, feeling that somehow we are the cause of the trouble, or that we should have been able to overcome it with love, prayer, hard work, intelligence, or perseverance. And I'm here to tell you that none of that works. So, and it's, and what I learned in Al-Anon, the 3 C's, like I didn't cause it, I can't cure it, and I can't control it. And I heard that in my very first meeting. But how I got to my first meeting, I had the good fortune to, better check my time here. I had the good fortune to meet a budding alcoholic when I was in college. It was my second year of school, and he was, my work-study job was on the football team. And so I showed up for practice. I was an assistant athletic trainer, and we were weighing and measuring all the men. It was a great job for a budding Al-Anon, I'm telling you, right? Whoa. Anyway, I digress. So, male after male, coming in, weighing and measuring, and we were just writing it down, and it was for the program, and this guy comes in, and he's really cool, and, I write down that he weighs, 195, and he said, no, I don't, I weigh 205. Like, no, you weigh 195. And then, I'm like, oh, he's 6 foot. No, I'm 6'2". No, I don't think so. So that was the beginning of our relationship. And he was the captain of the football team. He was super charismatic. He was just this unbelievable guy that everybody loved. And he was really, he was really nice. He was kind-hearted, and he was the life of the party. And I was just instantly attracted to him. And at the time, I didn't really know, I couldn't have told you why, other than he was handsome and, the captain of the football team. And, so we started dating, and I took him home to meet my family. My grandma was there, and I was like, Grandma, what do you think? What do you think? And she said, well, honey, he's got a big neck. And he did. He played fullback. So anyway, our relationship progressed, and occasionally he would forget that we had a date. And I would sit at home and I, wait for him, and it was, before cell phones and all that kind of stuff, so I would just find myself waiting and waiting and waiting. In fact, it got so bad that one of my brother's friends bought me a Ronald McDonald doll to keep me company while I was waiting for, him to show up. And he would, always have some great excuse, and, oh, he was out and something happened, and, and I believed him. I just thought, okay. And I knew he liked to party, and I saw it a few times. But, I was raised with alcohol, so his alcohol consumption didn't seem out of the norm to me. There's a line in the beginning of How Al-Anon Works. It says something like, if everybody drinks like your family, and that's all you know, then how do you know that someone's not drinking isn't normal, right? So anyway, we moved in together. His drinking started to get a little bit more pronounced, shall we say. He, really forgot to come home a few times, and then there was the cash machine withdrawals, and he'd take out $20, he told me, and then it turns out it'd be like $200. Well, why didn't you tell me 20? Well, because see how mad you are? I knew you'd get mad, right? So just those kinds of things, all those things that happen, in a very new alcoholic relationship. And so, but what happened for him and what happened for me, as his disease progressed, so did my Al-Anonism. And when I got to Al-Anon, there was no such thing as codependency or anything like that. Those terms hadn't been coined yet. They called it co-alcoholism, and so I didn't know what was going on. I just knew that I was so focused on him and what he was doing and his drinking. And as his drinking got, as it progressed, he got more and more violent. And we were young. He was in his very early 20s and was a blackout drinker, was violent. He would come home and we would have a fight, and it would be ugly, and then he wouldn't remember the next day. And then he'd kind of feel remorseful, and so we got in this pattern of being, for me, I was like queen for a day. Like, I kind of would pick a fight almost so that he would go out and drink. So then he would get violent, and then the next day I could be queen for a day. And that's kind of the progression of my Al-Anonism. Just got so tied up in that. I went from being, a high school straight-A student, cheerleader, all that stuff, to this woman that just was kind of begging for just any kind of affection. The thing, though, that's really tricky about alcoholism, or for me, was that when he wasn't drinking, he was the kindest, most loving. He was a great guy and just charming. Everybody loved him. But anyway, finally, he was out one night, didn't come home. This is what happened. Didn't come home. I was at his mom's house with his sister, giving her marital counseling because her marriage was a mess. And, mine was, we had it together, right? So anyway, he never came home, and so I had to have Sharon, his sister, bring me home, and we lived in Gig Harbor at the time. And we lived in this little tiny house on the bay. And I was laying in bed, and I could hear all these sirens, and they were getting louder and louder and louder. And I was like, oh man, I think they're after him. And I went in and I got his sister, and I said, I think they're chasing him. I think they're chasing him. I think they're after him. And she's like, no, go to bed. Don't worry about it. And then again, they were getting louder, 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 louder. And pretty soon, sure enough, there was a state patrol, sheriff, Gig Harbor police, you name it, were in the driveway. And our bedroom was like right where the driveway is. And so lights flashing, I could hear this commotion. He got out of the car. He was trying to get in the house, and they tackled him in the front yard. And I've thought frequently, like, I wonder what he was thinking. Like, if he got in the house, they would just go away, right? Like, oh, made it free, I really don't know what he was thinking. Anyway, I went out there, his sister went out, and she started yelling at the police, and the police told her that if she wasn't quiet, then, they'd haul her off with them. And then he just looked at me and he said, I'm sorry. I am so sorry. And I really got, like, at the very core of my being, his remorse and what it meant to be a sorry human being. And so anyway, he got hauled away in jail. And what happened was, while he was in jail, his mom came to see me, and she told me this story about his dad, who I thought died of cancer. But his dad actually died on the streets in Chicago. Terrible ordeal. She left with the kids. She had 4 kids, and she left with them in the middle of the night. The youngest one was in diapers. And she just told me this crazy story, and I just was like, wow. And then she told me about Al-Anon, and that maybe I might want to go to Al-Anon. I was like, and that he was sick and had this disease, and I was like, no, I don't think we're that bad. He's in jail, I know, and he beats me up, but I don't think we're that bad, right? And, but anyway, he got sentenced to outpatient treatment, and part of that was the family. And so I went to the family program because I wanted to be a good wife. I thought that's what you were supposed to do. My whole life has always been about doing the right thing, not from a moral perspective, but just because that's what I thought I was supposed to do. And so I just wanted to do the right thing. And anyway, went to the family program, and I learned about the disease of alcoholism, and they showed this chart that showed the progression of the disease of alcoholism, and then it showed the spouse. And the spouse's progression was exactly the same as the alcoholics. And I just was like, wow. And again, they didn't, that was a co-alcoholic at that time. And I went to see his counselor to see how he was doing, like a good Al-Anon. And the counselor just looked at me and he said, if you don't go to Al-Anon, the marriage isn't going to make it. You have no hope. You're not going to make it. And so I was like, okay. So I went to my first meeting in Gig Harbor. I pulled in. We had this drunk car, right? Like, it made noise when you went around the corner because the wheels were all bent from the police chase episode. And, it was just this ratty, dented Toyota Corolla, boom, 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 boom. And I pull into this church parking lot, and there were all these, nice cars. And so I sat in the parking lot for an hour and a half. I could not go in. I was terrified. And these people, they just looked like they wouldn't get it, right? So then after I saw them come back out of the church, I went home. And he was like, oh, well, how was your meeting? What did you learn? I was like, oh, it was really great. I got some really helpful hints and tips. I learned that you shouldn't have alcohol in the house. And, I just totally made up this story, lied my fanny off. And so the next week came around, and I had to go to the meeting because I had lied the week before, and the guilt was just killing me. So I went into this meeting, and there were these lovely women in there. And they had blue hair, like mine is now. But I did not have blue hair then. It was January of 1984, and I was 23 years old. And I sat in that meeting, and I was sure that those people could not possibly identify with what was going on with me. I mean, I had long hair, I smoked like a chimney, I swore like a sailor, I just was like, was completely bankrupt, emotionally, spiritually, done. But I looked good, I thought, right? I did not let them see me. I did not let them see the fear. But I kept going back because the funniest thing happened. When I left there, I felt a little better. And it was like the most remarkable thing. And then I remember, kind of shortly after that, having a family dinner with his family, and it was just light. Nobody was drinking, and we had this kind of fun time. And so we kind of kept going back. We went to our first AA function together, and there was this high school band playing, and they were playing, I don't know the name of the song, but they go, tequila. And it was like, why are they playing that song at an AA function? We're trying to keep them sober, people. That was my oh God. Anyway, so, that marriage didn't really work out. And we got divorced, and I had a big, great story about why we got divorced. It was all his fault. He, was this, and he was that, and, yada, yada, yada. And, but the truth was, I just couldn't do it. There was infidelity on both sides by then. It was just such a mess. I could not see any way through, right? But I kind of kept going to meetings a little bit. I took a little break, and it turned out, I got a roommate, and she was about the same level of drinker as the husband I just left, which was really funny. So I was like, okay. And then I just happened to meet this guy over the phone through work, blah, blah, blah. And I knew he was an alcoholic. And we went out for coffee, and he said if we were, he was ever going to date anyone, then, they really needed to have an Al-Anon program. And I thought, well, I have that. I had long hair, so I could do that then. And, and it was kind of funny because it was like God knew exactly what I needed to keep my butt in a chair in Al-Anon, and it was a man. It was, I didn't have some epiphany. That first Al-Anon meeting, I did not feel like I fit in. I wasn't like, oh, I'm home. Like a lot of people have that experience. I did not. I felt like a duck out of water. It was really, really uncomfortable. I'm very shy. I'm super introverted. And to be a joiner and sit in a meeting and share was not that much fun for me. But enter husband number 2. And I started going to Al-Anon meetings. And, we dated for a little bit, and then we didn't date anymore. And I remember sitting in a meeting on my home group's always been on a Saturday morning. And so I was sitting in this home group, and I had about, 3 years under my belt. And that's when I had my epiphany. This light bulb went off like, oh, this is not about them. This is about me. It was like, ooh, ouch, And I really had to take a look at myself and how did I get here? Why was I sitting in a meeting? I had this great story, I had this first husband that was crazy and it was, this great thing. And then I had to turn it inward. And what I learned is that, that's when I learned I was raised in this disease. I have an alcoholic mom, alcoholic father. They were very high functioning. My dad was a principal at a junior high, very well educated. My mom worked in a bank. She was a beautiful woman. She was funny and smart and witty, and she could drink. And I started to realize that ever since I could remember, like my mom and dad got divorced when I was about 7 years old. And after that, I was a latchkey kid, and it was my job when I got home from school to make sure the house was just so that when Mom came home, she was happy and she wouldn't have to drink. And I never I didn't put that together for a long time. And that's, they talk a lot about the denial of the disease and the family disease in particular. And I started to really kind of put 2 and 2 together, like that, oh, this is just, I was kind of destined to marry the man that I married that got me to Al-Anon. My brothers they're both alcoholics. One is sober today and the other one is not. But anyway, I started to really look at myself and really look at the family history, and I got some outside help. And one of the things that happened for me is I realized that like my most challenging relationship was not that husband, it was actually the relationship I had with my mom. And it was kind of the relationship I struggled with the most. And through, as I grew in my program, I was going this way and she was progressing in her disease. And so we were kind of going in opposite directions. So the further that we would get apart, the more challenging it was for me. And I'm lucky that I have a really great sponsor. Her name is Joy. She lives in Los Angeles. But I called her one day and I just was like, she's driving me crazy, my mom. And so when you call my sponsor and you're yammering on about somebody, she would do this. You got 10 minutes, and then we're going to get into the solution. And if the person's name kept coming up, she'd just say, well, that's our Jackie. That was my mom's name. That's our Jackie. That's our Jackie. That's what Jackie does. And so whose problem is it? Jackie's or yours? Jackie's not going to change. or she'd say, oh, you got a case of the shishis, or a case of the hee-hees, or, you know, stuff like that. And so I was talking to her one time, and I was just complaining about my mom. I think about this now, and I'm just like, oh my gosh. Complain. She this, she that, she, you know. And she said, Lisa, I think that you need to go read the fifth tradition in Al-Anon. And I was like, what? And the fifth tradition is about practicing the steps of AA ourselves by welcoming and giving comfort to families of alcoholics. My mom just happened to have 2 sons that were alcoholic. So my sponsor said, the next time you talk to her, the only thing that you can say to her is, gosh, Mom, it must be really hard to have 2 alcoholic sons. And that's it. I couldn't say anything more. And then she said, from here on out, you can talk about sports, gardening, and the weather with her. And that's it. Everything else is just noise. It doesn't matter. Your mom is who your mom is. And so, kind of the blessing for me of this program, I'm gonna wrap it up here. In fact, I said this I went to my home group this morning, and I was dressed a little different. I was in yoga outfit. My home group members don't recognize me because I'm wearing lipstick and I have makeup on and actually wear clothes. But now I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, I was in the meeting this morning. It was on the 9th step. And I was sharing that the first 9th step I didn't have a sponsor, and I don't recommend this. I made amends to my mom, and it was so awful and it was so hurtful to her that I ended up having to make amends for making amends. And so what I did is I wrote her a letter. I paid her back all the money she had given my alcoholic husband and I, not the second one, the first one. She gave us a lot of money. She bailed us out a lot. And, you know, she bailed us out to her detriment because she worked for a bank, and she would, you know, if we were overdrawn, we were on her account, you know, she would get in trouble. She'd show up. So she bailed us out a lot. Anyway, I paid her back the money. I thanked her for what she gave me, my work ethic, sense of humor, you know, all the things that I got from her. And so that was my next amends. Instead of pointing out everything she did not do to live up to my expectations about what a mom should be, I thanked her for everything she gave me. And then one day, not that long ago, I was driving to my meeting. I live on Camino Island, and the meeting is about a half an hour away. And it's a beautiful drive. And I used to complain about this drive. I was used to having a meeting that was like 5 minutes away. But anyway, I was driving to the meeting, and it was this glorious day. And I have this voice in my head talking about my mom. And I'm just like, I am so tired of this. I don't want to be that person anymore. So I just said this little prayer. This is how, you know, my program works and my God works. I just said this little prayer, and I said, God, I don't want to see my mom that way anymore. I don't want, you know, she's old, it's over, and I am not kidding you. It was very clear. Voice in my head said, all you have to do is look at her and see the face of God. When you look at her, you will see the face of God, and you don't have to worry about it anymore. And I did, and I was really freed from that obsession with her and the alcoholic. So, you know, again, today I live with a wonderful man. We share our programs. We don't manage each other's programs, although he does have some good tips occasionally. And we have this beautiful life. We live on Camino Island. We have a lovely home. We have 3 dogs. I have 5 amazing stepchildren and grandchildren and great-grandchildren. And today, before this meeting, went to dinner with a group of friends. I didn't have friends before I got to Al-Anon. I was too afraid. And so I'm just, I'm grateful for the program. I'm grateful for my Al-Anon program. There's a line in the Courage to Change on February 11th, and it says, "I was pulled from despair by the love of strangers." And that has been my experience in Al-Anon. So anyway, thanks for letting me share. Appreciate it.